welcome everybody to one more show of Max One-on-One and also for the Midnight Madness radio show. To me, today, one of the best singers of heavy metal. You know, he has all the ranges of a good metal singer. George Cole, how you doing? From Banshee. How you doing, George?
I'm doing good, Max. How are you?
Awesome, man, and thank you so much for your time. So,
my pleasure.
You have a new record, man, out there after 7 years.
Yeah, with Banshee, yeah. It's been 7. Wow, time flies, doesn't it?
So you played the last record, right? In 2012.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. On Mind Slave. Yeah, that was my first record with the band. Okay. It was the band's 4th album.
Okay.
And my first with the band now, and now we've got the new one, which is my 2nd with Banshee.
Nice. Yeah, and also the new record is amazing, man. How was it? How was the production? How was the from the recording to to the writing of the lyrics? How was that process? To put how many songs? 10 songs together?
Yeah, it was 10 songs. It was the collaborative effort between myself, Terry Dunn, and our manager and co-writer, song co-writer, Steve Sussman, and it was fun, man. It was a good time. I don't know how bands will do just a single or 1 track or 3 tracks. I'm old school. I grew up when albums were the thing, and I think that's what fans want at the end of the day. They don't want to buy singles, or they do, but as a holdover until they can get the full record, a full album. We don't want half measures. We want, if you're going to do it all the way. Give them a full album, something they can get behind, collect, listen to, add to their collection, and their discography of the catalog of the band's releases.
Yeah, cool, man. So I'm gonna come back to this album in a minute, but I just a question pop up in my mind. So how do you start with heavy metal? And what are your influences?
Well, I started in, if you can believe it, 5th grade when I saw Kiss. A friend in school had shown. Well, actually, my mom turned my brother and I on to Kiss, and we got the Kiss Alive record, and that was it for me. I was immediately hooked. And at that moment, I was a young child in 5th grade, and I knew right then and there, I said, man, I want to play rock and roll when I grow up. I want to do that. I want to be a musician. I want to tour. I want to make albums. And from that point on, it was, heavy metal or bust.
Non-stop, man.
Since high school, I've been playing music, and to date, here we are. I've got umpteen albums released. I've been to almost 60 countries around the world.
Wow.
I've done a lot of tours. I'm in multiple bands, and I've made this my life. There for a while I was a writer for a British magazine.
Mm-hmm.
As long as if it's music or music related, I'm involved. I used to be a booking agent at a venue, the venue where Pantera got signed in Fort Worth, Texas. I've done it all in the music and the music related.
So how was the Whiskey A Go Go? That a few months ago you played there, right, live?
Yeah, it was my 2nd time there, and always a fun venue, a very historic venue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it packs out like it used to, but it's a great place, good sound, nice stage, and I remember when I was a child, my mother had Johnny Rivers live at the Whiskey A Go Go on a vinyl record, and I used to listen to that thing. And to actually play the place years later with with not one but 2 of my bands, it's kind of coming full circle, a dream come true type
One of
thing.
the acts there that day was Jim Green from Buffalo, New York. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah. He's a good, nice guy. Yeah, we were Jim's support act that night. We were the main support.
Wow.
That evening. There were other bands on the bill, but it was, it was basically a label showcase for Visionary Noise and Double Trouble Productions. It was a showcase for them. They had several bands that were signed to the label on that night, and it was fun. It was a good time. It was great to get back to LA. We just did a festival with Jefferson Starship and Head East and some of the Skid Row and some of those kind of bands in up in Kansas, in a place called Great Bend, Kansas. It was I forget the name of the fest, Rockin' Q, Rockin' the Plains, or something like that. And we had a blast out there. It was fantastic show, and it had the current lineup of the Banshee on stage there, and Terry Dunn was in fine form, and we just went out there and rocked it, and I'm looking forward to more.
I love your voice, man. Like, you have a really great voice, and even for heavy metal, you cover every single range, from 0 to 100.
Right.
All of them, And how do you find out, or how do you, train yourself, to reach all these, pitches and lows keys and high keys,
Originally, I never thought that I would be a singer.
Okay.
I was always primarily a guitar player. That was my focus, was guitar.
Okay.
And we all, from my high school bands to my, out of high school bands, post high school bands, we always were looking. It was one of the big problems, was finding a good singer, a really good singer. What I consider a good singer are guys like Rob Halford, Bruce Dickinson, Ronnie James Dio. And we always, putting together my own bands, I wanted those kinds of singers in the band. So I kind of fell into the role by default. I wasn't intending to be the singer, but my guitar player at the time, Aska's co-founder, which is a guy named Darren Knapp, had told me, dude, just be the singer. You got to be the singer. And to be quite frank, I wasn't very good. I wasn't very good when I started. I was really rough around the edges. I could make do, but I wasn't what you'd consider a phenomenal singer, what anybody would consider a great singer by any stretch of the imagination. But I knew that, I would listen to my brother sing, because he sang in his own bands. Okay. And I would hear him sing, and I knew he had a really, high range that he could hit. And our voices are very similar. And I go, man, if my brother can hit that range, if he's got that high, and my voice is just like his voice, because often, we used to lift the other, people would call and confuse us, one for the other on the phone. So, we sounded very much alike, so I knew that my timbre, was just like his. So I knew if he could hit those highs, I could hit them. It was just a matter of figuring it out. I was just singing and cutting my teeth and just doing it. And we released one album, and it was okay. And a second one, it was better. And a third one, it was even better still. And I think by our fourth record, Avenger, I was it. I was like, wow, I think I've got this now.
George, let me take you back to the new album. I want to talk a little bit about the songs there. What's your favorite
Madness.
song? The Madness from Banshee. What's your favorite song?
My favorite song, like yours, is Ingrid. I love that song. It just hits home with me. I think it's got this groove and this feel to it.
Who wrote it?
That was written by myself and Terry Dunn. Terry Dunn wrote the music, and I wrote the melody and the lyrics for it.
So this is a true story, or just something that came up?
You know what? I think it's true in the sense that kind of stuff happens every day on the planet Earth. It's a song that almost comes from the women's perspective, on divorce, on leaving a relationship and wanting to take everything, and wanting it all, and almost denigrating their former partner, turning their name to mud, or trying to clean them out, of all their money and stuff. We've seen this story play out a million times, across society, and
that's why
I like that song. For me, I started as I grew older. It's like in the early days, it was all fantasy stuff, you know, songs that could be movies and whatnot.
Yep.
But as I grew older, I wanted to write songs that would be familiar to the listeners. I mean, as all of us grew up with heavy metal, as we got older, you know, we got families, we got married, we had kids, we have bills, you know, reality creeps in. And so I didn't want to lose the fantasy elements of heavy metal, but I also want to touch upon some of the things that maybe we've all experienced, and that, you know, heavy metal fans now as adults, you know, as once, you know, kids or teenagers that grew up, they can relate to now.
Yep.
And Ingrid certainly is one of those songs, you know.
I only want anything I can get, anything I can get. It's what I'm no mistake. I'm on the track. My lawyer, Mr. Emmett, said the sky's the limit. Time with your children, I'll take it. Your reputation, I'll take it.
Also, the rest of the madness too is in that approach, because most of the album, it deals with the themes of, you know, depression and mania and suicide and you know, those kinds of themes that a lot of people out there suffer from or have lived through. And, you know, in fact, Terry and Steve, you know, it hits close to home with them because they're both, you know, depression sufferers. And I think Steve even has some PTSD. And so, you know, it was a real natural and quite poignant album to make for us because, it deals with these real issues, you know, not just...
Yeah. Now, we all deal with that, you know, with those kind of...
Right.
So, okay, George, one thing, or anything that you want to tell to the fans or, you know, to the kids out there?
Man, I just want to tell them to keep listening to heavy metal. Don't forget that rap stuff. I mean, you know, quite clearly, I mean, rap is, you know, it's a bunch of programmed beats with a bunch of rhymes, you know, that anybody, you know, from a kindergartner could do that kind of stuff, and you know, elementary school student. With heavy metal, I mean, you actually have to have in rock and roll, rock music in general, you have to have an understanding of your instrument. You have to know how to play it. You have to be talented and know music and notes and this, that, and the other. It's not just you know, some program beat with a atonal rhyme over the top of it, you know, and a bunch of stolen sampled riffs from every other genre of music out there. If I had a restaurant and you came to my restaurant and you ordered a pizza and I went to Walmart and bought a pizza, put it in the oven, and you know, also bought some pepperoni on the side at Kroger and put that on top of the Walmart pizza and served it up as if it was my pizza. In heavy metal and rock and roll, we're creating music. We're not just taking somebody else's creations, mashing them up, and then, hey, look at me, you know. It's just not, it's disingenuous to compare, you know, DJs to musicians, you know.
Awesome, George. Thank you so much for your time. You know, I hope, you know, we can have a follow-up interview, you know, anytime with, you know, with more
Max.
of your stuff, you know. You're a great musician, you're a great singer, you know, and I'm very happy that we had this conversation.
And thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, man, and always, you know, fun talking to other metalheads and rockers, you know.
Awesome.
And best of luck to you with the show and the radio, and I'll talk to you anytime you want, buddy.